Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's panel on self-care. This workshop is the fifth educational peer support session to be provided by the Navigating Gender Together, which is a program operated by Trans Emotion, a trans-led and trans-serving organization. Navigating Gender Together is a program coordinated by me and which offers free gender-affirming garments such as binders, gaffs, packers, shapewear, tuckwear, breast forms, pocket bras, and so forth to people who live in the California Central Valley. This program also hosts support to trans folks in the form of online peer support sessions, including this one. Everything that this program is doing and will continue to do has been made possible by a grant from the California Department of Public Health. If you are interested in applying for a free gender-affirming garment or subscribing to our email so you can be the first to know about free educational sessions like this one, please visit our website, Trans Emotion. I'm going to drop that link in the chat right now. This session is, like I said, the fifth installment of an ongoing series of workshops and panel discussions facilitated by a trans person, myself, and intended for the trans community. Our guest speakers include trans people or health professionals who specialize in our health. Please note that you will have the ongoing opportunity to ask questions. However, because this is a panel discussion, you can send your questions in the chat. And then after the scripted questions have been asked and answered, we will then open up to non-scripted questions that were asked in the chat. I also want to take this time to ask our audience for feedback. So if you could please let us know how we're doing. Please take this feedback survey. We give out gift cards at the end of the year to people who complete surveys like this one. So I'm going to drop that link into the chat. And now in a random order, I'm going to introduce today's three panelists. Crow Fitzpatrick, they, them, is a disabled, queer, non-binary individual who has been working at Cultural Family Therapy as an associate therapist for almost 3 years. Crow attended Fresno State and received a bachelor's in psychology and minored in women's studies. They completed their master's degree in social work in 2023. Their thesis, Barriers to Accessing Gender-Affirming Mental Health Care in California Central Valley, won Outstanding Thesis Award. Since 2008, Crow has been an activist and advocate for trans equality and disability access. Crow is a current board member at large at Gender Alchemy, a local nonprofit that serves the transgender community of the Central Valley. Outside of work, Crow enjoys watching old movies, listening to records, crocheting, spending time with friends, and their husband, Jess, who they have been with for 15 years. They have a cat named Pippin and a guide dog named Felice.
Ah,
And we also have Paul. Paul, I do not know how to pronounce your last name. Can you say it for me?
Swearingen. It's like swear and engine together. Swearingen.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Paul Swearingen is a writer, speaker, therapist in training, educator, and former pastor who is known for asking the questions that many never feel safe to ask aloud. Their work invites people to reconnect with their own wisdom, reclaim their stories, and discover that authenticity is often the beginning of healing. A graduate of California State University, Fresno, Paul spent many years as an award-winning television and radio sportscaster before becoming a radio station owner in California's Central Valley. John toured work that centered people rather than performance. They left broadcasting to help plant a church in Fresno where they served as a senior pastor for a decade. Eventually convinced that faith would challenge injustice rather than protect it, Paul stepped away from church leadership, become a writer, content creator, and public voice for those navigating deconstruction, emotional wellness, and spiritual reconstruction. As unconventional Pastor Paul, they unexpectedly built an audience of more than 130,000 followers on social media, creating conversations that blend theology, psychology, compassion, and curiosity while encouraging people to think more deeply about faith, politics, gender, and belonging. Today, Paul is completing a Master's of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy and serves as a clinical therapist trainee, integrating humanistic theories and work with individuals and couples. Their clinical interests include religious trauma, identity development, LGBTQ mental health, family systems, emotional resilience, helping people move beyond shame into lives marked by greater connection and authenticity. Paul also teaches journalism at Fresno State College, believing that both journalism and therapy share a common calling, healing people, helping people tell honest stories that have power to change lives. Paul's spouse Ashley served 2 terms as mayor of Fresno, and together they continue to advocate for communities where compassion, curiosity, and courage can flourish. And they share 2 adult children, 1 daughter-in-law, and a new grand dog named Hank. Jackson Spencer, he, him, is a licensed marriage family therapist dedicated to creating a warm, affirming, and authentic space where clients can feel seen, heard, and supported. As a transgender therapist, Jackson is especially passionate about working with the LGBTQ community and helping individuals, couples, and families navigate life's challenges with compassion and affirmation. Born and raised in Fresno, California, Jackson earned his degree from California State University, Fresno, and feels honored to serve the community that helped shape him. He believes that healing happens through genuine connection, and he strives to build trusting relationships where clients feel safe exploring their experiences and discovering their strengths. Outside of the therapy room, he is married to his wonderful spouse, and they share their life with their beloved fur baby, Olive. And Jackson tries to work out most days and enjoys connecting with people, trying new experiences, and embracing opportunities for growth and adventure. So, welcome to the virtual stage, Jackson, Paul, and Crow. Our first question, I will go ahead and put these I'll put this question on the screen briefly, just in case anyone benefits from seeing it in writing. Our first question is, what are some basic methods you would recommend for managing stress in general? And so whichever of you
Wants to start.
feels wants to go first can go ahead and go first. What are some basic methods you would recommend for managing general stress?
Jack, you have the highest credential. Why
Oh
don't you
my
start
God.
us
Oh,
off?
I don't know if that, that doesn't, it's fine. Anyways, I'll go first. I'll go first on this one. Like Aaron said, I love to work out. I like to move my body. I think that is, it helps me I do it in the morning. So I have a lot of energy throughout the day. So I think it helps ground me. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I love being outside, especially not in this heat, but I love to swim. I love to, take time to read, rest when I can. I'm usually moving a lot, but taking little breaks and yeah, being with friends, chosen family. Yeah, yeah. I think
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I can go
Yeah,
on and on, but yeah, these are yeah little things.
yeah. I think it's different for everyone, like what helps to reduce stress, and I think really the main key is like looking at like what makes you happy, what do you enjoy, and like um what Jackson shared is perfect. Like that's a perfect example of things that can help reduce stress, that bring bring you joy. Yeah, personally, like I like to go for walks and be in nature. I like to when I really need to like take some deep breaths. And There's a some people talk about like the five senses activity where like you look at a certain number of things you can see, hear, touch, smell. Um, and some people find that overwhelming. And so one thing that I've found can be helpful is like to just focus on just one of those things. Like for instance, like what are the things that you can hear right now? Or um picking a random color and being like, what are the things around you that are that color? Um, Things like that. Um, and of course, if you have access to fur babies, that's like, I think they're honestly like some of the best therapists. So just like spending time with a cute animal or being with your friends, being with your community, the people you feel most supported by.
Hmm. So yeah, I agree with all that. So I think I'll take my more macro view on it is like first off, recognizing that stress exists and that you're in it. Um, I talk to my clients a lot about let's redefine the word selfish. Like selfish isn't necessarily negative, and I use the old airplane mask analogy of
Yeah.
they tell you put your mask on first before you help anybody else if those oxygen, and it's like, gosh, that's so selfish. Like, why would I take care of myself before taking care of anybody else? But the analogy is, of course, if you don't have resource, you're not going to have resource to help anybody else. You're going to be
Right.
working from an empty bucket. And so we have to make sure our bucket is full. And then ultimately, I like, if stress is getting into anxiety or panic attacks or fear, really identify what that feeling is. And my belief is all of those feelings are important and are telling us something good that we need to know. And so sit with the stress and say, why am I stressed? What's it telling me? And sometimes just being able to hear where the stress is coming from can help us start to process it through. So that's kind of what I would share.
Absolutely.
I love these responses. I know that as a seahorse daddy, which is in the trans community what we refer to a trans man who gives birth to his own baby, postpartum, I was recommended to get sunlight every day, in order to help keep away postpartum depression. That just going outside, doing something you enjoy, even if it's just 5 minutes to eat breakfast in the sunlight, that for some reason just going outdoors, touching grass, getting sunlight is really helpful.
Bare feet in the grass is great. I love doing that.
All right, and then let me screen share. Our next question is what what are some specific strategies for managing stress during political uncertainty or when there is transphobia in the news or in the media?
Well, first, like I think it makes sense to feel that stress, like just in general. Like I think um telling people like, oh, don't worry about it, or like, you're overreacting is not helpful. I think one, just acknowledging like it makes sense to feel what you're feeling. It makes sense to feel anxious, it makes sense to feel angry, it makes sense to feel scared or overwhelmed or whatever you're feeling. Because it is a scary time that we're in. Um, what gives me hope is thinking about our history and reminding myself that and reminding others that we've always been here. Like trans people have always existed since like people have existed in every culture, and um, there's no way that we're going to go away. Like we're always going to be here. And the way that we've continued to be here is by showing up for each other and having that community. And so um, definitely like staying involved with community, finding community if you haven't already done so. Trans Emotion, Gender Alchemy, Casita Feliz, Black Queer Fresno. There's a lot of really great organizations in Fresno where you can find that community. Um, Getting help from a therapist, talking with your friends. And the biggest thing is like, yeah, it's important to stay informed, and social media can be a great way of connecting ourselves, but also at the same time, I think it's really important to keep checking in with yourself as you're doing those things, as you're looking at the news or as you're looking at social media, and just kind of monitoring like how am I feeling as I'm doing this? Like, is it starting to feel like too much, and being okay with like giving yourself a break from looking at it? Maybe even like if that's difficult, setting a timer of like, okay, after like a half hour or an hour, I'm going to stop looking at this. And then tomorrow I can look at this again. It's still all going to be there. Fascism, transphobia, it's all still going to be there. You're not going to miss anything. And and we need like like what Paul was saying was like we really need to keep taking care of ourselves in order to keep going. And if we don't do these small things to take care of ourselves in the moment, then it's going to be really difficult to keep going and not feel burned out.
Gosh, Crow, I thought the right answer was to do what I do, which is get pissed and rage post on social media. Like that always makes me feel better. But I am, yeah,
That's
I think
also valid. Yeah.
I think I totally agree with what Crow is saying. I think knowing what is mine to carry and what is not, what is when it's time to step away and when it's not. is really important. I call myself like an optimistic nihilist, and so I think some of what we're going through is just the process of humanity, and I think humanity advances like 10 steps forward, 7 and 5/8 steps back, but we've inched forward just a little bit in a generation, you know? And so, you know, the it's going to be okay, we're going to be okay, I think is not necessarily true. I think there have been times when humanity has turned very dark and very horrible. And so in the midst of that, what nihilism does for me is it says, I'm just going to keep living in the middle of this. Like I can't stop living because that's not going to fix things. And something bad may happen. I'm going to do whatever I can to mitigate against that. But and then the rest of that tension of it, you know, try to put into relationship and or into activism. But again, activism that feeds your soul, not totally, you know, takes everything away from you. And I love, there's a great book called Pleasure Activism by, I think her name's Anne Marie Brown. I may have that name wrong, but it's about how taking care of ourselves, doing what we enjoy doing sexually, doing what we do to like the book even says like make dinner for yourself and put it on the best plates you have and sit by yourself and eat with the good china and all, and that all of these things are pushing back against the status quo and saying I'm going to be me, I'm going to love life. And so understanding who we are, what we need, but then not stop living in the middle of it just because, excuse my language, but some fuckheads in the White House spreading really stupid rumors to gullible people. Okay, I'll stop now.
I appreciate what you both said. I think you both nailed it. I just a little bit of what I do with clients too. I do the breaks, right? I think it can be all consuming, right? And I have some clients that have they'll refresh their page. I mean, it's consistent, it's consistent, like they don't stop, right? And so timing, like you said, Crow, like just doing a time limit, right? So you can check your phone, 30 minutes, or check your phone at certain times of the day, or but not all day long. Like we're not just don't refresh your email, don't refresh the social media, because like you both said, it's going to be there, and we still need to live, right? And so and unfortunately it's still going to be there tomorrow, right? But finding the community, finding the things to balance, right? It is about balance, because um unfortunately, right, the fuckheads are there. I appreciate that. And they're gonna be there for a little while longer. Hopefully then that's it. But until then, what can we do to get by? Take it day by day. Yeah.
They're great responses. I love it. I'm going to put our next question in the chat. I don't know why I haven't been doing that. I should just do that. It's so much easier than sharing. So our next question is, what recommendations do you have for someone wondering how to handle and cope with ongoing transphobia in public and in personal life? So when you have those bad experiences happen to you personally, what do you suggest?
I don't, do any of you have a strong answer for that? Yeah, I probably would lean on my last answer of just, I think refusing to stop living life is like the best pushback against this stuff we can do. But evaluating what happened to me in this is real, it really happened, and it was really wrong, and it's really not my fault. I think those are all the questions I would have a client ask about trauma. Did I deserve this to happen? For me, in my own personal life, just that my my therapist telling me what you just told me was horrifying. Like I would be really pissed off if that happened to me, was like a life-changing moment of like, oh yeah, that was bad, wasn't it? Like I didn't deserve that. I'm not that wasn't why I was born on this earth. And so I think really being present to what happened and the impact it's having on my body. And is it making me overprotective in places where I'm planning for the lion to come out of the jungle and eat my face, but I'm not even really in a jungle, so working those things through in therapy for sure, get a therapist. So anyway, those are kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think just kind of like piggybacking off of that, I think it's, one of the goals that they have, the people that don't want us to be here or don't like us, is for us to feel scared, to feel down. And some days it's hard to fight that, and you do feel that way. And but being able to continue to be yourself and to allow yourself to continue to experience joy is kind of, in a way, fighting back against them, because they don't want us to feel that joy. They don't want us to continue to live authentically and be ourselves, and so defiantly being yourself anyway. And um, one thing that can really help with that is having, community to help support you, having, um, like Paul said, someone to talk to, a therapist can be really helpful. And also, like, if you need support, like depending on what happened, like if it was like discrimination at work, or like you experienced violence, like also like having resources to get support with that as well, like not being afraid to ask for help in those situations too.
I like both of those. I agree. I think for me personally, some of the times that I've been dissociated, right? Like I've dissociated, right? And so acknowledging after the fact, I think, like you said, Paul, like what did I feel in my body, right? And um, being more aware of it, maybe, and like how can I think for a long time I lived in the non-binary world, and so I would avoid bathrooms. I avoided the stairs, I would avoid the looks and the remarks or whatever it was, and um which is unfortunate, right? And but I'm thinking about my safety, right? And myself in those moments. And so um anyways, just reflecting back, I think just what was coming up for me, or what is coming up for you in those moments, right? If that does happen for you, and going back, we still have to live, right?
Yeah.
And finding that community. I think it's important, and leaning back on the people that you do have. Because the world is cruel at times, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I really agree. I love that, Jack, and being present to that, being present to the reality. Uh, I was just having this conversation this morning with somebody about if you knew the incident where some of the San Francisco Giants wrote Bible verses on their pride hats on Pride Night, and some somebody very logically brilliant, they were saying, hey, it's just they feel strongly about their beliefs and you feel strongly about yours. And I said, yeah, but their beliefs say people are an abomination and need to be stoned and killed. Like that, it's like if you have a party and you're asking your party goers, what kind of pizza do you want? And no matter what, I don't want pineapple on it. And one group votes for pineapple and Hawaiian pizza, and the other group votes for, we want to fillet you and eat you on the pizza. It's like, no, no, these are not two sides of the same coin here.
Right.
This one is something really brutal. So I do feel like there's a lot of gaslighting and but you know, to go to this place like 1933 Germany, like putting pink stars and harming queer people was really the first step, one of the first big steps of fascism, and it made the Christians of Germany very happy and very supportive of Mustache Guy. And so I think for me, there's just something about being present to the reality of where we are and what's happening and what people's stances really mean.
Yes, I love these responses. And I'm no professional or anything. I just wanted to add that as someone who's, been there and, experienced some attacks, I just personally found it really helpful to write poetry about it and also to talk about it with people, like a therapist. I found it really beneficial to really go in deep and just really digest what I went through and how I feel about it, how it made me feel, and how I should feel about it, as someone who has survived it, how I should be looking at this rather than how I felt in the moment. And just really digesting it so I can, kind of let it out of my system and not let it control me in any way. So I just wanted to share that. But anyway, I'll move on to our
Can
next
I ask a quick
question.
question? I heard once that there's an app that tells where safe bathrooms are in Fresno. Does that exist?
I
I don't
haven't
know
heard
of one
about
for
that.
Fresno specifically. I know of one I made one for the Fresno City College.
Oh, nice.
And then I know that I believe that they have added some bathrooms to it since I created that map. And I know I asked multiple times for that map to be shared publicly, and I don't know if they ever did.
Mm.
Besides that, I don't know of one for Fresno. Do either of you, Jack or Crow, know of one?
I've never heard of one, but that would be amazing because also like as a non-binary person, that's something that I constantly um, always think about is like, is where I'm going to have a safe place to go to the restroom, which isn't something that we should be afraid of. But yeah, that would be really cool if that existed. I hope something like that exists, if it doesn't already.
I
I
think
think it
something like
does.
that should exist, like just in general for everyone. Like this is where you can find a restroom. Here's where you can find a Chipotle. Here's where you can find a restroom, Like why
Yeah,
can't we have the
exactly.
same information about restrooms as we do about like stores?
Mhm.
100%. There is something my client actually just shared it with me, and I was trying to pull it up right now. Last week I don't have it on this. Apologies, I don't have it on this phone, but I'll email it to you all.
Oh, cool.
That
It's pretty simple. It's 2 words. It's just not coming to me. It's fine. It's a
if it
week.
doesnal exist, I wish somebody would make one.
Yes. No,
But also
yeah, agreed.
never go to the bathroom alone is the other one too. Go to the bathroom in packs if possible.
100%. 100%.
Right, our next question is, what would you recommend to someone struggling to heal from trauma or who is suffering from symptoms of PTSD?
Um, well, if you're able to get access to therapy, I think it's a really important thing to help with healing. And there's some really great types of therapies that are helpful with trauma, such as EMDR, um, internal family system. There's a lot of really amazing different types of therapy that can be helpful for trauma. But the most important thing in the immediate, until you get a therapist, or even after you have a therapist, is again to have those coping skills, like things that make coping skills. A lot of times people think is like this really fancy thing, like you have to have like bubble baths and like access to money or like time, and it really is just what makes you happy and what makes you feel more calm and relaxed, and that's again very different for everyone. Um, but you know having people that you can talk to, friends, community, um, and also just um, yeah, again, just being open to getting that support.
I think checking in with yourself is uh something I think we tend to forget to do, right?
Yeah,
Especially when it comes to trauma, right? I think trauma, it's kind of, it goes hand in hand, obviously. If you've dealt with grief, I think we all have, probably to a certain degree, but it just comes up sometimes when we don't expect it, right? And so being gentle with ourselves, or trying to be, I think we hold a lot
yeah,
of pressure in our culture, unfortunately, with ourselves. And so um trying to be more attuned with, I'm learning this in my own therapy, so I'll raise my hand to this, but just being more attuned with, okay, what is coming up for me, right? What am I feeling in my body? Okay,
yeah,
definitely, this must be some kind of trauma maybe that I experienced, or something that I went through. Just be patient with myself, right? I think a lot of the times we want to just, okay, we got to move on. I got this, I got to fix this, but trauma is not something that can be easily just fixed, right? So.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of Like, is what I'm feeling real? And in some ways, it doesn't matter if the traumatic event happened or not in the way you're remembering it. What's important is that you're having a traumatic response. And so don't, I think we can get really stuck on like, oh, I'm just overreacting or something like that. It's like, okay, if you're overreacting, ask yourself why. And I work with a lot with a modality called internal family systems. And so it's like, okay, let's stop and there's a part of you that's saying, we are in danger right now. Like we're in real danger. And so I'm going to throw up anxiety and fear and panic attacks to get your attention. And so stopping and asking that part, like, what is it that you're afraid of? And do you understand that I'm an adult now and I have resources to help us get through that we didn't have back when the trauma occurred? And just having those kind of conversations can start to assure that part that they're not wrong or stupid to feel that way. And I, I just trigger warning to talk about like even suicidal ideation. That's a part of us that's trying to bring a solution to the table. And so embracing that part and saying, I can totally understand why you're bringing this suggestion, but let's really consider the consequences of that and the consequences for people around us. And is there another way? But by affirming that that part is, doing something kind and or trying to do something kind and helpful by bringing up these traumatic responses, we can start to then work with them and say, okay, how can we respond to some of these things differently in a more healthy way?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your responses. These are hard questions, especially for people like us who are actually trying to live through these things and figure this out for ourselves too. I wish there
It's
was
really
just a button
unfortunate.
to, I wish there was a button to just fix us, or just heal us. Like, okay, that just happened to me. Heal, move on. That's not, life is not a video game, and that's the hard
Yeah.
part. You can't just heal yourself and, get a new life and move on.
Well,
Yeah,
and to
it's
me,
really,
and I hope I'm not over talking, but to think of trauma, I mean, our brain and emotional system is brilliant and fabulous, and we can find so many ways to cope and deal with so many things. And I think it's like, wow, you're amazing that you were able to survive that. The fact that you're sitting in front of me today makes you a miracle and makes you brilliant. So I love it. I love talking about these things because it just makes me amazed at human beings and humanity and what we can do. And then if we tap into that brilliance and say, okay, how do we do this a different way? There are brilliant suggestions inside of all of us. They're brilliant solutions. And so actually it's just like it's my favorite thing to do to talk about this stuff.
Well, awesome.
Because my
Uh,
dad would say, just go away, go outside and play, kid, brush it
yeah, go
off.
walk it off, rub some dirt on it. Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, and it is unfortunate like how high the rate of trauma is in our community, especially in the trans community, and it's um so I think it's just even more important to, to not stigmatize it, to like talk about like, yeah, this is really common. It is okay to get help and get support. And um yeah, sometimes we have these feelings in our body and or emotions and we don't even realize in the moment like, oh, this is part of a trauma that I experienced before. Like this feels familiar to something else that I experienced. And so being open to, kind of similar to what Paul was saying, like recognizing like where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? Um is and yeah, and sometimes we'll find that like, okay, this is like, yeah, I'm feeling, for instance, trapped right now, but I'm also remembering all the other times that I felt trapped or all the other times that I felt scared. And
Mm.
Our next question is, what are some strategies you might recommend to someone interested in identifying harmful or addictive habits and replacing them with healthier coping mechanisms?
yeah, for one thing, like I think just recognizing like this isn't an easy thing and that it's okay to remember that relapse is part of recovery and that you may not get it perfect at first. Um, but being open to recognizing what those triggers are, what are those things are that are causing you to want to use in the moment. Um, and again, like kind of asking yourself, like, what is it that I need in this moment? Why am I trying to escape from something? Am I trying to numb something? Um, and again, like having these other coping skills that can help you in that moment to help you to feel differently. And it's really difficult to start to rely on other coping skills, especially when you've become so used to using something else. But um, the longer you allow yourself to sit with that feeling, the more it starts to decrease over time. And sometimes it's not even about like one day at a time. It's like the next minute. How do I get through this next minute? And there's a lot of different resources for getting help too. Like again, like talking with a therapist, talking with your friends, getting help from your community. Um, there are like support groups like AA, but there's also places to get help too if you need it. Unfortunately, I feel like there aren't a lot of like trans affirming, like recovery place spaces, especially in Fresno, and I really wish that we had something like that. But so it definitely makes getting help more difficult. But yeah, I think that's like the main things that come to mind for me.
I think I think in terms of harm reduction too, which is like it's funny. I went to an AA meeting recently for a class, but I remember back when I was in college going to an AA meeting and you could still smoke inside. And like I went to this AA meeting, I'm like, my God, these people are just smoking like crazy and drinking coffee like crazy. And they're just picking up one addiction, to get rid of the other. But I think that's okay. I don't want somebody to necessarily pick up smoking because it's very harmful. But if, like, somebody says, I really want to pick up, so I'm going to go have a cigarette, then I'm like, yes, that's a much better choice than go into relapse. So I think we have to have a lot of grace in our process in all of this. So yeah, that was kind of my thought that came up.
I kind of second to what you two said. I think it's perfect. Um the main thing is being gentle or patient with yourself, right? I think Crow, you said it is relapse is part of it, right? And I think a lot of the times people there's that shame cycle, right? And then it's like, oh God, I did it again, or I'm never gonna be sober, or whatever it may be. I'm never gonna be able to kick the habit or whatever they're dealing with. And I think um 1 minute at a time, right? One day at a time, 1 hour at a time. I think it just depends on the person and kind of what they're going through. But I think we get into this like I need this now, or it's gonna fix, or whatever it is. I need that, and just kind of sitting in that discomfort. We don't like that, I think, collectively as humans, and something to learn. It's something to just learn, right? With therapy or groups or whatever it may be. So.
Isn't it crazy that we used to tell people you have to stop using before you can do therapy? Like that's
Wow.
mind-boggling. It's
Yes.
mind-boggling.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
I I would also say, if I'm allowed to say this, I'm a big fan of psilocybin. Not just go get some and take it yourself, but really studying. And I think with some of our psychotropic substances out there, I wish we would do a lot more research in how these can help the addict, because I really do think there's some good solutions there.
I want to circle back to what Crow mentioned about identifying why you're going into the habit in the first place, like what is driving you into it. I really thought that was um, a really good way of thinking about it, because as someone who's had these uh, issues, I'm trying to figure out like how do I not just go into that addiction space? How do I avoid my addiction, like, or whatever it is, the thing that like helps me out in these situations, but is I know is not healthy. I never even thought about, thinking about why do I want to do it in the first place. So I thought that was really impactful, and I really agree with everything you all are saying. I just wanted to circle back to that because I thought that was really helpful personally. Um, and our next question is, do you have any tips for safeguarding one's mental health, well-being in general, so that we won't begin any bad habits in the first place?
I would just say very simply, if you're human, you're going to have some bad habits. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in that, guys, but that's my first thought.
Um,
Yeah, I
And I
mean, no
would go,
one is
go
perfect
ahead.
for sure. Yeah.
You go. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Crow, and I was just gonna, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. You go ahead, Crow.
No, no, that was it. I was just gonna say, like, just picking off what you were saying, like, yeah, like no one is perfect. Like, of course, we all have things that either we want to change or we want to work through, or yeah.
And I remember what I was gonna say is what you said before, Crow. Okay, what is eating this bowl of potato chips doing for me? Like, why do I need to reach for this right now? And kind of thinking about why I'm doing the action that I'm doing.
Yeah.
kind of looking at your history too, right? Like I come from a family of addicts. Um, my family was open about it, right? My parents were they did meth for too long, right? And probably everything else. But I think that we had open conversations about it, and I appreciated that just personally. But if you know where the generational, right, addiction kind of the line is, I think that is can also be helpful to a degree. It doesn't mean you're gonna fall into it or you're gonna, you're not gonna go into it. It's just it kind of helpful to see where your line is, I guess, if you have that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for responding to this question. It's a very hard one to respond to. I personally feel also that maybe I want to lean into what Jack was saying, and because I come from a family of people who have there's a lot of alcoholism in my family, and so I my whole life decided early on I'm not going to be that, and so I decided early on I'm gonna limit myself to like one drink a month. And then eventually it was like one drink a year. And now it's like one drink every other year. And just to make sure I never fall into that kind of life cycle in the first place. So yeah, anyway, thank you for everyone for responding to that question because
Arian, I
that's a
think
hard
one
one.
other thing I just thought of is like having community, having people in our lives, somebody who we trust, who we know have our best interest at heart, who can say, I'm noticing this, and is it your best? Or having, again, if you have access to therapy, having a therapist who can say, I feel like you don't want to go there to talk about this, so that makes me curious to go want to talk about that. So just having somebody we can trust to hold up a mirror and say, hey, I'm seeing this. Do you recognize this? And is it okay? Is it okay for a temporary amount of time? And is it going to end at some point? And how do I support you in that? Just we're not always very good at being self-reflective. And so we need somebody else to help reflect towards us.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we don't know ourselves as well as our best friends or our spouses do,
Mhm. Yeah.
or a therapist sometimes. Oh, our next question is, do you have any other tools for building healthier mindsets and positive habits that haven't already been mentioned? So anything else you want to add here?
Mhm.
I mean, there's a bunch of basics of sleep, eating well,
Yeah.
all of those basics. And spiritual practice, I think, is very important, and reviewing our spiritual practice of, is it helpful or is it condemning and shaming? When we have a spiritual practice that allows us to really go internal, to bring the internal to the external, or if this is our faith walk or our spiritual walk, of I can connect to something divine or something outside myself that inspires to me to be a better part of myself. I think those can be extremely helpful. Again, unless they're causing you to be self-shaming and calling you an original sinner or some things like that. But so definitely mindfulness or spiritual practice is one of my biggest ones.
Yeah. A simple one too, just trying to talk nice to ourselves. I think we have a tendency to be very critical of where we're at and where we're not at, right? And so like just it's a daily practice. I'm on that train too. So just being trying to be kind, right? Trying to be that self-talk is real. And I know it. I tell some of my clients and they just look at me like none of this again. I'm like, no, I'm just try to talk nicer to yourself, right? Just practice. Just hear me out, right? So,
I actually heard in a podcast the other day this idea of three beautiful things, and I've actually been trying this the last few days. At the end of the day, I try to think of three beautiful things I saw or experienced, and none of them can be things that profited me. So it can't be like I got this task done or I accomplished this thing. It's got to be totally like uh, I saw the geese by the ponding basin on the
oh,
way to work, and I love those geese, and they're so much fun to watch. Or I saw the mountains. I was able to see the mountains today around Fresno or something. So something that's just, or like my grand dog, I got to see Hank today, this beautiful little dog. Just, so I've been trying that for a few days, and I think I'm enjoying that. It's pretty sweet. It's making me be attentive to beauty I see around me.
love that. I think they call those glimmers too, right? Or like um they call them something. I've heard this. Anyways, I appreciate it. I want to start doing something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
what, glimmers? What you said,
I
glimmers?
think that's what I've heard them. They called it or like screenshots in your mind. It's like they're like little messages for you or like anyways that
Oh.
people have different things, but I like the three beautiful things. That's yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna store that in there. It's nice.
Yeah, I love that.
Sad thing is the geese go away. I went to work yesterday and they're gone, and I'm like, oh
Oh
no,
no.
my geese are gone. But then I thought it's beautiful that I watched those little goslings grow up and now they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Okay, our next question is fairly similar. What methods can you suggest to someone in need of expressing strong and unbidden emotions safely and productively, preferably in a drug-free, alcohol-free, self-harm-free way?
I think, again, it may depend on the individual. And there's a lot of really beautiful ways to express yourself. Like, um, I think art can be a really amazing way. Like, if you like to play music or draw, or even just like coloring in a coloring book or um, writing, I think can be really amazing ways to express yourself. Um, Also, again, like going back to the importance of community, um, talking with someone that you trust, talking with a friend, talking with, again, like the people that you feel safe with. Um,
I, I went to the place once, I've gone twice, where you smash the plates and stuff. I can't
oh
remember what it's called.
yeah,
The art
the
of
Rage Room.
Rage Room. This one was called Art of Anger, now that I think about it. Yeah, but it's a
Nice.
rage room, and you can take a baseball bat and smash things. And yeah, it was pretty cathartic. And again, she had a spiritual practice we did before we went in. And so that can be a way to get some stuff out. Or maybe a simple way is just like hitting your pillow or, doing
Yeah.
something of motion that's helping these stuck things to get out.
Think.
Yeah.
These are great. I love the art and the painting and the yeah, getting I think movement is huge and
Yeah.
these techniques like you can like push yourself. I'm sure you all have heard this, but like you push yourself off the wall, um, uh, clinching and anyways, I'm trying to think of things off the top of my head, but just moving your body, I think is a big one, right?
Yeah.
Those ways, yeah.
I
Trying to
haven't
think.
heard of pushing yourself off the wall. What is that?
Yeah, so I wish I could so you kind of like if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling restless, you kind of it's like you're almost like a push up like on the wall. Like
Oh,
so
interesting.
yeah, you kind of just you lean in it and then you just kind of you don't not necessarily doing a push up, but just kind of you're doing the body resistance from the wall.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
That is cool. I think also, again, I kind of always go back to being present that I'm feeling these emotions and it's okay. It makes me
Yeah.
human to feel these. So I want to feel it. And sometimes if we're in a space where we're like, well, I can't really do anything about this right now, so I'm going to put a pin in it and I'll come back to it. But if if somebody has a fear, like I'm going to get emotional, I'm going to start crying, I'm going to go into a rabbit hole, my suggestion is like set your clock timer for 15 minutes and let yourself feel what you're feeling. And then just know when that clock timer goes off, I got to get back to my day, or I may call a friend or do something to like make a break with that so you can get back to what you need to do. But um, again, just I'm feeling emotions and I'm a human and that's normal and I should feel these rather than just go, oh, stop, stop, stop.
Yeah.
I like these
When
suggestions.
yeah. When your child comes running to you crying, you don't go, oh, get away, get
Mm.
away, stop feeling that way. Or at least if you're a decent parent, you don't. But we do the same to ourselves, like stop it, get away. I don't have time to deal with your emotions.
Right.
And I read in a book, because my baby will be a toddler sooner than later. And I read in a book that when you have those really strong emotions and you don't know what to do, before you act, you should stop for about 10 seconds and take a deep breath. And instead of just instantly responding to, your toddler, because the toddler age is a very difficult age to deal with. And so you recommend like just taking a deep breath and stopping and thinking because that helps you kind of reset and not just do what you're about to do, but instead it gives you a chance to do something smarter than what you're about to do. So I wonder if that might also help.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
let's see. Our next
Well, I
question.
was going to say my therapist recommended bubbles. And so, yes, when I'm having those strong emotions, I can blow bubbles and it's fun for one, but it forces you to like do controlled breathing. Like you can't just blow hard. You have to control your breath
Mhm.
out and so the goal is like breathe in and then breathe out longer than you breathe in to like expel the carbon dioxide and stuff. And so I
Yeah.
have found bubbles to be a fabulous tool to help me with that.
I love that.
Me too. And I have so many bubbles too, so now I have another use for them. Our last question is, can you suggest any healthy communication habits for dealing with unhealthy influences and toxic people in our lives?
Oh, that's a good question.
Save the best for last. Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry, this is a hard one. This is the most advanced one I have.
I, so I'm no contact with my family. And we have to know that there are times when, and I don't even say toxic people, they may think they're doing good, but they're very harmful to me and they're disinterested in understanding how they're harmful to me. I don't have to be liked by everybody and I don't have to make sure they're okay and I don't have to prove them wrong. And so boundaries that say we're not crossing this is one way. And then if that person consistently crosses that boundary, then it's like, I need not be in relationship with this person, even if they are blood relatives. And I think that has been really important for me in that process.
I like that. Boundaries are important.
Yeah. I think especially with family, there's a lot of pressure in our culture and our society of like, oh, they're your family, you have to like, you know, you can't cut them out of your life, you have to like repair this somehow, but it's also like, but what are they doing to help repair? Are they also acknowledging the harm or are they not, you know? And also, yeah, like I think a lot of us, especially in the LGBT community, especially in the trans community, we have chosen family, which sometimes shows up a lot more than our blood family, you know? And yeah, again, like you don't have to keep people in your life that are causing you harm, especially if they don't actually want to address or work on that harm or they don't respect the boundaries you've put up in place.
I agree. Yeah, I'm same with Paul. I have no contact with my family either, and I think it's what did my therapist say? It's almost it uh you've made a positive or a good decision for yourself because it's a healthier decision, but it doesn't mean that you don't have those feelings still, right? Like that was your family, right? And it's unfortunate and and that's part of grief, unfortunately, right? But it's also kind of what you were saying too, Crow, is like if these people aren't going to respect your boundaries or respect who you are and where you're at in your life, then that it might be for the best that they are not a part of your life, unfortunately, right? So,
And
yeah.
I think to speak directly to the question, um, I have a training I do for people called Conflict is Good. And it's if we really do love someone, we are going and we're in close proximity to them, we are going to bump into each other. We are going to offend each other. So getting to a place of understanding, okay, I'm going to bring this to them because they harmed me, even in a little way, is love. It is relationship. It's like I'm going to share this hard thing with you because I want to have relationship. And when we communicate, like I'm not saying you're bad, I'm saying this was my experience. And when we communicate that and talk it through, our relationship is deeper on the other side of that. So, like, not living in avoidance with somebody. And if you feel like you have to live in avoidance with somebody, then, like, okay, maybe I need to redefine what this relationship is. But, being able to tell somebody, like, no, when I get dinged, I'm gonna share it because I don't want to hold a file in a file cabinet of my soul against you that someday will come blowing out like a volcano when you leave the cabinet door open, or some silly thing. So yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is just communicating about it helps kind of remove some of the toxicity.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything that they want to add before I close out for open Q&A? All right, just checking. And does anyone from our audience have any questions that you want to ask aloud or in the chat?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I think, we're talking about addiction, we're talking about trauma, and we're talking about all these things. I'm going through quite a bit of that myself. Um, you know, Sorry, there's an airplane. So I believe that one of the things that I've found, and I wanted to ask if you guys have found the same thing, is that, one of the roots that has not been talked to when we're going into treatment or things like that is patience. Like it's not a passive thing. Patience is something that we have to work really, really hard on. And a lot of people will quit working on sobriety or quit trying to make it to the other side of something because it takes time. And I feel like we don't learn enough about patience itself and how to make it through, how to process patience, how long it takes, and really the endurance of it. And that's why a lot of us often fall back into, okay, I can't handle this feeling. I want this feeling gone, done. We don't consider, okay, I don't want this feeling, patience. We don't talk about it enough to also think about it when we're about to relapse. Oh, this is part of where I throw in patience. And then literally, I've just thought about this because it's not something I was really taught during a lot of my treatment. And I want to know how you guys felt about it as well.
I think that's a really great question, a really great point to bring up is that yeah, again, like these are not easy things to work through. These are not easy things to address. And so yeah, patience is a vital part of it. And that's like honestly one of the hardest parts of it is because like we were talking about before, like sometimes it's like even just like 1 minute at a time, instead of one day at a time. Um, and it's in that it's almost kind of like if you think of like a wave building and then going down is kind of like how that that urge feels in us when we want to use. And so like it builds and builds from like a trigger and then it gets to this place where like it feels really extreme and then it slowly starts to go down like the longer you sit with it. But it's that having that patience to be able to sit with it and having the tools to be able to sit with it that's the most difficult part. And yeah, so I think that's a vital part of recovery, absolutely.
Would you guys agree, or do you guys think that I don't know if you guys have been through treatment. I actually had to like put myself into a bubble to be able to stop, and I'm still kind of in a bubble. Um, I don't know if you guys have been through treatment, but I feel like some of the coping skills that a lot of us are missing have a lot to deal with not learning or like an all-consuming kind of prop up of a toolbox that we can pull out of whenever we're lacking the patience. Like there's, like Paul said, there's this general idea of what toolbox is. And I almost feel like we're kind of missing an opportunity with people whenever we don't have these tools specifically around them. And if you guys can think of some that are specifically around that, that when people ask, what can I do to not relapse? Like, is there or should we think of a couple? Or if you can think of a couple, what are specifically around that? Because mine is just no matter what, I never pick up. And that may be some weird stuff. That may be a cigarette. That may be something else. I may end up curled on a ball on the floor and just to never pick up. But other people, like as they start and they haven't been put in a bubble, like I don't know how they do it, but there's just these little tools right here that should be around patients that's kind of missed when we're trying to talk to people, or at least to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think your question is awesome about patience. And I think patience sucks. I hate it. I always feel like if I ever would ask the universe for patience, it'll be like, I'll give you something that's going to require patience. So I never ask that. But I heard this statement about having children, and it's long nights, short years. Like the nights last forever, the years are gone in a moment. And it's so true. And so I guess the tool out of that for recovery is, yeah, right now, this is really hard. And I can be present to that. And like, I need to do whatever it takes to get through this moment. And can I also allow my brain to grasp that 5 years from now, I'm going to look back and say, wow, that went so fast. So I guess it's to me, it's a little bit of a self-talk and a positive self-talk of like, I don't have to be in denial that this is brutally hard today and I feel like I'm not going to make it. But there is going to be a day I look back and say, I did that, I made it, And it actually went a lot faster than I could feel at the time because I was in the middle of it. I'm also a big fan of, like, I call it building memorials. So if you wanted to pick up and you didn't, and instead you ended up as a ball on the of a puddle of tears on the floor, yay, brilliant. That puddle of tears was such a good way of avoiding picking up. I'm so proud of you, and you should make a trophy and put it in your soul trophy case and say, I did that. I made it through that moment. And it may seem like the smallest, tiniest little thing, but I think we can then, the next time we're facing the tool, then is like, no, no, I made it that time. I've got the trophy. I can do it. I can do it again.
My next question is, so like I said, I'm cis, and so I can only relate to things coming from my perspective. But there was one time there was like I got kidnapped and assaulted, and it was on the news, and it put me down this rabbit hole that would not stop. And anytime I even opened my phone, my notifications would pop up. And so I cannot imagine on the news 24/7 something saying, taking rights away or talking about your lifestyle or things like that. Um, I don't know if there's a way to turn off your notifications, take off news apps or anything like that, because I know even limiting it to 15 to 30 minutes a day, that would not have been enough for me. Um, I don't know how you guys do push through that. Is there a more strict way you guys can think of? Because, like I said, I can only come from my perspective, but 15 to 30 minutes a day would still kill me.
Yeah, I don't know um enough about technology to know if there's like a more like extreme to shut it off, but I think it is again also kind of difficult to completely avoid it, especially when it is, things affecting your life, your community, your loved ones. Um, and I think again the biggest thing is having a plan of like, okay, I know I'm going to look at the news, for instance, at this time or for this period of time. And I'm also going to make sure I have some time after that to kind of like take care of myself. I'm going to do something that helps refill my cup, that helps me feel better, or at least a little bit better, even if it's only 10% better. Like I'm going to talk with a friend about like, oh my God, I just read this and it's really upsetting. Can I talk with you about it? Or I'm going to listen to some music that helps me feel a little bit better, or go for a walk, or, again, everyone's different as far as like their coping skills and what's helpful for them, but like making sure that you also pencil in some time for yourself for your immediately after looking at that stuff to take care of yourself, and also like checking in with yourself as you're looking at it and making sure like you're noticing when it's becoming too much, looking at it.
Okay, and so one of my last questions is, what is the most important thing for you guys from people who are not transgender, that want to be supportive? What are the hardest times that you guys go through, or what are the most supportive things that we can do for you as a friend, as part of your community, during political times, during regular times? Like, just what are the things that have comforted you the most, or like been like, oh, thank you just for that, walking alongside the street, just from your guys' perspective, just each of you. So that way, I kind of keep it in my pocket.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that. I think it varies depending on. I think we're all probably gonna have maybe different answers, maybe similar, but I think for me, I had a previous name, and sometimes people will slip or pronouns, and I think what I appreciate is, oh, sorry, and then they'll just continue on with, sorry, Jack, or whatever. It's not a big deal, right? I think maybe for all four of us, and then on we just, at least on my end, I can only speak for myself. I just want to blend, right? I just want to kind of, I don't necessarily want to disappear or in the crowd, but I don't want the spotlight. I don't want that. I don't need it or anything, any means, but just knowing that there is, and there are people out there that want to support, appreciate it, appreciate you. Thank you. Um, I think when I a long time ago when I would see like a rainbow sticker or an inclusive sticker or something on a business or something, I was, oh good, I can go in there, you know. Um, so that was helpful. I'm just trying to think of things off the top of my head. I'm sure you all might have some things too, but just even hearing that you want to be supportive, I mean that's so much appreciated, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think like being informed is good. Um, like I want more. Um,
Yeah.
Except they love certainty and they love being a part of a group. And, you know, sometimes you can't challenge the mindset of that group, I guess. But so like with the trans in sports issue, like I think there's an argument to be had around who competes with whom. But the narrative of like this is men playing with girls in sports is bullshit. It's a bullshit narrative. And so just even like pushing back on that, like there are maybe 50 trans women in women's sports in America from kindergarten to college.
Mhm.
And most of them, you don't know their name because the narrative that they're harming girls on the court, they're harming girls in the locker room, they're dominating the sport is simply not happening. It does not exist statistically. And so I think just even being willing to ask if somebody says something about a trans person or any LGBTQ plus person, like where did you where did you come to that conclusion? Like how did you are you sure that's right? Should we maybe look and see if maybe we're being politically manipulated rather than believing something real and just helping challenging people to push back on these things we say.
Yeah. I was gonna say something kind of similar, where it's just like, you know, not being afraid to speak out when you do hear someone say something that's, transphobic or harmful, even if there's no trans person in the room. Um, being being that person to speak out against it, is really important to being an ally. And um, so it's not always on trans people to be the ones to speak out against it. And and also just treating us as human beings, like just I think I think is what you're already doing, just being open in your heart and your mind. And yeah,
Yeah, being here and asking those questions is big.
And I'm no professional, but I just wanted to add, when it comes to some of your questions, like when it came to the news, I personally have kind of stepped back by having my news delivered by email instead of as a push notification on my phone. That way, because I check my email, several times a day, and I can wait until a time where I'm like, I'm ready to hear this news rather than just like ha looking at it right then. So I might be hearing it a few hours after it happened, or maybe even a day after. But at least I'm still getting the news and I'm getting it when I'm more mentally capable of handling it.
yeah,
I also want to mention sometimes when I feel, I don't know that I'm always the most patient person, but I sometimes will distract myself. So when I'm really feeling like I need to go harm myself or something, one of the ways I help myself is I'll make myself have to do something first. Okay, before I go do that, I need to go do this thing, or I'm gonna just watch an episode on TV or something, like something that just distracts me and just helps break that mindset. And then by the time I get around to, okay, now I'm gonna go do that thing, it's like, well, now I don't really feel like doing that anymore. I don't have those feelings as strongly as I did. So just finding some way to like leave the house or put on the TV or just, suck your brain into something else.
yeah,
And then being just being nice to trans people, honestly, like when we realize that you're just being cool with us, um, it just makes the world a difference because sometimes a lot of people are not cool to us, um, and yeah, I mean, just being nice is like just huge for us sometimes, which is sad to say, but it's true.
Arian, I love how you say, I'm no professional, and then you say something very profound. Very nice.
Do you
No
guys find
professional, I've just been through stuff.
everything? Yeah, that makes you pretty professional about it. Do you guys find a certain generation is specifically? I mean, I probably already know the answer, but I like in my generation, this is not really a big thing. Like it's so normal in my generation that I don't really see any difference between you guys and anybody else. I think it's different in each generation, but I mean, it's not uncommon in mine.
Well, that's good to hear because I live in a rural area. It's called Oakhurst. It's near Yosemite. It's a very small town. I grew up in a town called North Fork. We had less than 5,000 people in the whole town. So when a lot of people didn't know the word trans, I'd never heard that word until I was like 27. And still a lot of times when I do say that I am trans or something comes up that identifies me as trans, like the fact that I'm a man who's given birth to a baby, some people they immediately get so weird about it. They're just like, oh my God. And like they just completely change. And it's as if they're talking to some sort of strange creature from the wild and they don't know how to respond, or how to even think about me or approach me anymore. And I'm like, I'm still the person you were talking to a moment ago. What just happened, So that's great to hear that that's not how everybody feels about us.
I, yeah, I would like to say that Gen Z is better, and I think they are. And I've learned a lot from millennials and Gen Zers. But I think there is a swing in our society. Like, I think I saw the other day that like support for gay marriage is down to like 65% when it was like 80%. So those are pretty scary trends that are coming around. The other thing I would say about generations is I'm Gen X, and a lot of us are coming into our empty nest years, and who are we now? And I think a lot of Gen X men who I always say, like, we were told, don't run like a girl, don't throw like a girl, don't cry like a girl, are are finding that, oh, there's this other thing in here, that I've always sort of known was down there, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't have language for it. And so I just always want to give voice to that, of like, to Gen X identified males who are AMAB, like, explore that, particularly if you're coming into like your later years. Why do you feel this way? Why have you always felt like you weren't manly enough, or you didn't meet some standard, or all of these things? And let's just live beautifully free for the rest of our time on earth. And I would also kind of jabbingly say, so we don't become like the boomers as we get to our last years on earth. But yeah, I think examining ourselves and allowing people around us to examine themselves and say, you've lived by these rules for all these years, maybe it's time to re-examine the rules.
I have this I have this thought that we're all just kind of fluid. That we all have masculine qualities and feminine qualities, and some of us just present them more outwardly than others. I always make this joke, like if a man dates me, he's got to be gay, because I'm pretty manly for a woman. But I really don't know what trans means. Like, is there a spectrum of trans? Like, I really am not educated on the subject, and I don't know if you guys feel comfortable going over that in this feed, but I'm not entirely sure what it is or the spectrum of it.
Yeah, that's a big question because yeah, unfortunately, we do live in a society that was colonized by Western civilization. And so before colonization, a lot of tribes here, that's how it was. Like there were not words for, in some tribes, there were not words for different genders. Like you were just a person. And there was no discrimination, no segregation on the basis of gender because gender wasn't even a concept. And there was no this versus that. And then in some tribes, there were words for trans people, words for intersex people, people who were not born entirely male or female. And there were words for different genders. Every tribe was different. And so there's a very different tradition everywhere across this landscape before colonization. And then colonization came, and the Western colonizers said, you have to be a man or you have to be a woman, and it's based on your genitals and all this kind of stuff. And so now here we are much later on trying to unlearn and relearn what we are as human beings. So trans basically just means that we realize that we are not a male who identifies as a man and who is masculine, or not a female who identifies as a woman and is feminine. Like we are outside of those little boxes, and we just feel like we don't fit neatly into those boxes. And so you'll find people who identify as non-binary, meaning because binary is comes from the word bi, which means two. So outside of that box of like you have to be this or that. So non-binary means like not entirely a man, not entirely a woman, maybe some of both, maybe neither, maybe more one than the other. It can mean a lot of different things. It all depends on the exact person. And then transgender man means, a man who was born female. And then transgender woman means, a woman who was born male. And then there's so many more identities, and it gets really in depth and involved. But that's sort of the most basic way that I can say that. And if anyone wants to add anything, go ahead.
Well,
No,
the
I
old
think you did a perfect job of explaining it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so hard to
there's
explain
an
because
old
it's like, well,
saying
there's this
of
whole history, and a lot of people,
there,
we weren't taught our history. A lot of history got erased when colonizers came. They immediately destroyed, burned, stomped on, broke a lot of the artwork and the textiles and the pottery and like all these different things that were like preserving, culture. And just we're like, no, it has to all be about Western culture only, and it's just so hard to like try to figure out how to undo that now in modern day.
I've heard the saying of, if you meet one trans person, you've met one trans person. Like it is a big spectrum. And I think I wrestled a lot with like, okay, which box are you in? I would have people around like, I need you to be in a box so I can easily define you and know how to relate to you. And I'm like, I don't know the box, or, I may know the box today and it may be a different box tomorrow. I don't know. I'm learning and discovering. And I just have really come to the conclusion, like people may say, why do you want your nails painted? Or why do you like to wear clothes that are gendered feminine? And my answer now is like, I don't have the slightest fucking idea. I just know that it makes me feel happy and good and aligned. And why is that a problem for anybody? I don't, so that's kind of where I am. But I also, can I say too, like, I do feel the responsibility, and sometimes maybe even in an unhealthy way. I recognize that I have been privileged as a white male most of my life. And so I have felt some responsibility towards my trans and queer siblings to take on those titles so that I'm standing with them, I guess, so I can say to people, oh, I'm that person you're supposed to be terrified of, and take that on myself. So yeah, that's a little bit of a been a wrestling match and a dichotomy for me. By the way, Alok Vyad is coming in March. I don't know
Oh,
if you guys know, I don't know if
yes.
you know who
Yes,
Alok is.
What?
they're a hero of mine. Yeah.
What? Where are they coming to Fresno?
Yeah,
Tower
they're going to
Theater.
in
Yeah.
March.
What?
In March, they're going to be at the Tower Theater.
What? Oh my
Yes,
God. I was gonna go see them in Sacramento a couple months ago, but I just couldn't do it. It was at late at night, and I have a baby, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this work with the baby and everything, and I wasn't able to do it. Oh my God, I'm so stoked. I can't wait.
and I have the sweetest friend in the world, and she called me up and she's like, "You just got tickets to see Alok in March," and I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my gosh!"
Wow. That's
So
a
yeah,
good one.
I would
Okay.
definitely recommend people go see Alok because he has
Yeah.
such excuse me, they have such good language for all of this
Yes.
and such a beautiful outlook. So yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, Loca's where I got most of my history and like, just changing my mindset, and really understanding myself. And yeah, so if you haven't heard of Alok, please go see them in Tower. They're amazing.
And go
Okay,
see their
anyway,
beautiful fashions and style and
yeah.
beard all at the same time.
Okay, last question is because I know that you guys record this and send this out. For people who don't really know, like they're just kind of going through this, like they're at the baby steps, the beginning steps that you guys have already gone through. You've already gone through the crap, the shit, the mud, and they don't know what's really in their head. Like I told you, I swear if anybody dates me, they got to be gay because I'm so masculine as a woman, but I'm still a woman. Like for those people who are like in those steps, the baby steps, who are kind of wondering like how do they explore and see what it is that they're feeling, or like how do they dip their toes in water? What water? Where's the water? Where's the puddle? Like how did you guys even start to just safely like figure anything out? And I know this could go on and on forever, but you know, baby steps don't really make a lot of sense when you don't know where the hell you're going or how it works.
Yeah, oh gosh. For me, I learned on YouTube, honestly. I went online and like I didn't even know that trans was a thing. I just Googled like can a girl be a boy, and just I just fell into a YouTube rabbit hole and I learned a lot of things from there. But in general, I would recommend that they go to places like Gender Alchemy, that they go to P Flag Fresno. There's a lot of great LGBTQ resources right here in Fresno, full of people who are smarter than we are, who can talk to those people and tell them all about everything that they have questions about. So yeah, we've got some great resources. My organization, Trans Emotion, is a good resource, but I really recommend, because we don't have like in-person social groups, I really recommend one of the social groups like P Flag Fresno or Gender Alchemy. Um, because they'll be able to go in person and really learn a lot of things. My organization kind of stepped back from doing a lot of the support groups. We just don't have the volunteers, and we're all introverts, and we're just not really cut out for that kind of work. So go talk to the extroverts at P Flag Fresno and Gender Alchemy. They've got a lot of great people there who can really help walk people through the baby steps and help them feel comfortable learning and exploring. And then when they want to explore specifically like through gender affirming garments and other like specific things, my organization has resources. We can get them free binders to bind their chest, or free breast forms and pocket bras for trans women who want to do the opposite. Because the funny thing about us trans folks is like half of us, like a third of us want to look a certain way, the other half want to look the opposite way, and then the third want to look neither of those ways. And a lot of us are amalgamation of all of that. So we've got things for each different way that you want to look. We'll help you out with that. We've got gender affirming grants where we help pay for electrolysis or surgery, um, things like that. So we've got a lot of specific resources for someone who's looking to explore in those kind of ways.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
I think
and
I think somebody allowing. Oh, sorry, excuse me, Crow.
no, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just gonna, again, it's like having permission to explore and try things on, and um, what my therapist, sharing another story. I'm trying to think of how to. There was a particular genre of pornography that I found myself drawn to, and I felt such shame for it. And I think we can, there's pornography's complicated, but what my therapist said is like, do you think that genre of pornography exists just for you? Somebody made this genre of pornography and you're the only person in the world who is drawn to it. And I was like, oh, probably not. Like, no, this is a genre because there's a lot of human beings that feel this way. And that, again, that was a permission moment of like, oh, I'm not this crazy, horrible thing. And I want to explore, why I feel this way and what, and trying different things on, and that works and that doesn't. And, and then reading books, um, that all of that has been a part of my journey to help me just keep trying things on and being able to say, I like that and I don't like that, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just being giving yourself permission to try out expressing yourself in ways um without thinking about like, is this a masculine thing? Is this a feminine thing? Just like, is this something I like? Does this make me happy? Does this bring me joy? Um and and yeah, it is hard when there isn't, you know, when you don't have access to good information or good resources. That was something I struggled with when I was first coming out, was like, in high school, there wasn't really a lot of stuff on the internet that was like safe information or accurate information about trans people. And now I think it's a lot different. Like there is a lot more like good information out there. There is a lot of resources locally and online. Um, and so it is hard when you at first don't have those resources or don't know where to look for those resources. Um, Again, there's a lot of really great groups like and resources like Ariane just mentioned. There's also the Queer Collective also has a resource directory of places to get support as well. Um, so P Flag and Trans Emotion also have a similar resource directory. And but it is difficult when you don't know, like, oh, this is where I find these resources, right? But hopefully sharing that, more people know about it now.
And this concludes our event. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you to all of our presenters here today. And you guys are also welcome to fill out the form. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say guys. You folks are welcome to fill out the form as well. If there's anything you thought of that you would like me to know, it's an anonymous form, and it helps me and Trans Emotion figure out how to continue doing these things in the future. We love learning from our past, so please help us. And we will be doing a raffle at the end of the year. We give out 3 gift cards to randomly selected people who have filled out our survey throughout the year. So it doesn't have to be this survey. You can fill out other surveys if you have other things you want to provide feedback on. It helps us, and we really appreciate it. So anyway, thank you so much for coming today, everyone. And the 3 of you, please, if you haven't already, send me your Venmo or your mailing address so we can give you your honorariums. And thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Definitely an honor. Thank you.